Welcome everyone, I am Tamika Lodge-Fenton. Thanks for joining us for the City and Guilds Math and English sessions. We're going to start with math, and today we'll be focusing on topic of operations on fractions. So the focus of the session: 1. To calculate a common fraction of a quantity, use equivalent common fractions, add and subtract simple common fractions. And of course, if you want to follow in your City and Guilds curriculum guide, it is Unit 205 in the Stage 2. Let's review a little. What is a fraction? A fraction is an equal part of a whole. The whole may be one thing, or it may be a group of things. The numerator is the top digit, or the top value, which says how many parts we have out of a whole, while the denominator is the bottom digit, which says how many equal parts the whole has been divided into. Now let's just look at this diagram here. It says 3/4, and as you can see, there are three representations of 3/4. So you have the linear or measurement model, where you see it's in a bar and you have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts, and 3 of those parts are shaded or highlighted. So that is 3/4 of that whole. Let's look at the area model, which is that green circular model. You have the circle cut in 4 equal parts, and 3 of those parts are shaded. And then let's look at the set model, or what we call parts of a set model, where you have 4 identical things in this particular set, and 3 of them have been selected. Awesome. So these are 3 ways in which you can represent it pictorially. So let's look at today's first question. What is 1/3 of 2,100 or 2,100? All right. How much is 1/3? Or how much represents 1/3? So we have 1/3 of 2,100, 2,100. And we pretty much, the off can be replaced with the multiplication there. And we're just going to do it quickly on the board for those who I've probably gone ahead. So the answer is 700, but let's just look at it here. So it's 1/3. I'm going to partition my board today because I plan to use it. So it's 21. It's important that I line up my things properly, I always tell you. So we want to simplify as best as possible. We're going to factor out 3 out of the numbers that are there. 3 into 3, 1, 3 into 21, 7, 3 into 0, 0, that's 700. So your answer is 700. So what does that mean? 1/3 of 2,100 is 700. So in this particular option, D would be your option. Your correct option. All right, so we still have 1/3 of 1,800. What do you think? We just did 1/3 of 2,100. We're doing 1/3 of a smaller value. So that means it should be smaller than 700. Great. So the principle still lies. It's 1/3 of 1,800. And you simplify as best as possible. 3 into 18 goes 6 times. 3 into 0, 0. 3 into 0, 0. So it gives you 600. So 1/3 of 1,800 is 600. All right, next question. Which of these fractions have the same value? All right, so the term that we want to look at here is equivalence. So you have 4 fractions: 1/3, 6/8, 3/4, 3/6. And they're asking you to tell which 2 of those fractions are equivalent. What are we going to do? The first thing, we're going to simplify all the fractions. We're going to ensure that the fractions are in their simplest form or simplest representation. Now, let's look at 1/3. Can we simplify 1/3 any further? No. So 1/3 is in its simplest form. 6/8. Yes, that can be simplified because there is a common factor that can be factored out of the 6 and the 8. The 3/4. Is there any common factor with 3 and 4? No. So 3/4 is in its simplest form. And 3/6, there is a common factor. So we can use common factors to simplify 6/8 and 3/6. Let's do that now. So the common factor here is 2. 2 divided into 6 goes 3 times. 2 divided into 8 goes 4 times. So what does that tell us? 6/8 is equivalent to 3/4. That's what it tells us. All right? So we're not going, so right away you can see that 6/8 is, and 3/4 would be your answer. But let's not stop right here today. We just want to also simplify 3/6 to let you know that it is not equivalent to the other three fractions we looked at before. So we're factorizing 3 out of 3/6 and we get a half. So what we're saying, 3/6 is equivalent to a half. So the 4 fractions written in their simplest form, you can see that 6/8 can be rewritten as 3/4, which is the same as 3/4 in that column there. So our answer here would be 3/4. It would be D, 3/4 and 6/8. I didn't look at the response. I just did the working. Which fraction have the same value? So it's pretty much similar to what you just did. So what you're doing, once you're asked to compare fractions, one, you want to ensure that they're in their simplest form. And that, how you do that? You find a common factor for both the numerator and the denominator to bring it to its simplest form. So here, 1/3 and 3/4 are already in their simplest form. So you can't do nothing there. 4/8 in its simplest form is really a half. And as you can see, you would have factored out 4. 4 into 4 1 time, 4 into 8 2 times. So you get that half. 3/6 factoring out 3 becomes a half. So right there you can see that 4/8 and 3/6 are equivalent. They both represent a half. All right. A shopper buys fruits, 1 kilogram, 1 1/4 kilogram of green grapes, ½ kilogram of red grapes, and 3/4 kilogram of apples. Now, what is the total weight of the fruit? What are they asking you to do here? You hear the word total. The person bought 3 different fruits. They're asking you to calculate how much kilograms of fruits was purchased. So we're going to add the fractions. Now, when you're doing your exam, please try to remember that you're being efficient as best as possible. So you see 1 1/4, you see 3/4. Those fractional parts are from the same whole. They're both quarters. So it will be efficient to add those first. That's what I did there. So 1 1/4 kilogram plus 3/4 kilograms gives us 1 whole and 4/4 or 4/4. Now, by now you should understand that if you have all 4 parts out of the 4 parts that you should have, that's a whole. So 1 4/4 or 4/4 kilogram is really saying you have 2 kilograms. So now you have 2 kilograms plus the ½ kilogram of red grapes. What do you have? 2½ kilogram. Now this is pretty simple. Once you're paying attention and realize that math is easy, math is also very logical. So your answer here is 2½ kilogram of fruits. Next question. An office worker weighs some items for posting. They weigh, now what does that mean? Just for context. When you're mailing things, and that's what the posting is about, they assign a price according to the weight of the item. So they're pretty much weighing the things to see how much it's going to cost them to send it wherever they're posting it to or mailing it to. What is the total weight of the items? So we have 1½ kilogram, 3/4 kilogram, and ½ kilogram. Now remember from the previous question, I said try to always be efficient when you're performing these math questions or items. Look at the 3 measures that you need to calculate, that you need to add together. You have 1½ kilogram and you have ½ kilogram. It's best if you add those 2 first because they're from the same whole. So let's do that now. So 1½ plus ½ gives us 2 kilogram. And 2 kilograms plus 3/4 gives us 2 3/4 or 3/4 kilograms. And that's it. That was such an easy question. Everyone should get these questions correct on their stage 2 paper. All right. So you have, let's do this last one before we go on our break. What is 7/8 subtract 1/4? Now look at these two fractions. We have one from a whole cut in 8 parts and one from a whole cut in 4 parts. We're going to subtract. What do we need to do? We need to represent 1/4 as 8s. So let us do that now. Both fractions need to be of the same whole. Let us make 1/4 8s. If we were to cut each of those quarters into 2, we'd end up with 8 pieces. So we're multiplying by 2. So now 2 times 4 give us 8, 2 times 1 give us 2. So what we're saying, 1/4 is equivalent to 2 8s. Now we can subtract. 7/8 subtract 2 8s gives us 5 8s, option A. Now, I hope you guys have been following. We take a quick break on City and Guilds Math and English sessions. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. We continue our math lessons. So let's look at the question. It's similar to the one that we did before the break. This one says 9/10 subtract 3/5. We're going to work it out on the board together because you know already I don't want to take it for granted that we're all following. So 9/10 take away, subtract 3/5. And as I said, as they are, so I'm going to give you a little linear model over here. So we're talking about a whole. This whole is cut into, let me go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Boy, that whole here don't look so right. All right, so I want 10 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now I have to have, because when you're adding fractions, they must be talking about the same whole. So this whole has been cut into, right, 5 parts. Okay, so this one, so what I'm saying now, I have 3 out of the 5, and this one I would have had, first time, I would have had 9 parts out of the 10 parts. So I'm adding. Now, if I cannot see this, can I add these small parts to these big parts and just say 9 and 3 is, what is that? 12 parts, and what base do I use? What denominator? What whole do I refer to? Exactly, it cannot be done. So I must take this 3/5 and this 9/10 to the same whole. Now, what I did with the previous question was to make this 5/10. If I cut every part into 2 parts, I would have gotten 10. Now let's look how many parts do I have shaded. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now I have 6 out of the 10 parts that I now have shaded. Let's test. So 3/5. Remember, I know this, that there's a relation with 10 and 5. 5 times 2 will give me 10. So I know that. But I can't just do it to my denominator. I must also do it to my numerator. So 6/10. So that's exactly what this diagram shows you. If you want to find an equivalent fraction, you look for the relationship with the fractions. If there is none, you can find a common multiple for both denominators. So in this case, 10 is a common multiple for 10 and 5. So now we can represent. So 9/10 can now be added to the fraction 3/5 when it's rewritten in another form, which is equivalent to it, as 6/10. So now they're both 10s. I'm adding from the same whole. So I have 9 plus 6 will give me, it's 6, right? Yes, 9 plus 6 will give me 15. 3. Oh, it's subtraction. I was like, I can't recall seeing a 15 anything. So it's subtraction, my bad. So 9 subtracting 6 will give me 3 and 10. What did that teach you? Whenever you're doing a question, feel free to look over it if you're not sure. If you don't see your option that you probably worked out and got, just glance back at your question to ensure that you carried out the correct operation. So 3/10 is the answer for this one, which would be option D. All right, so my slide is just going to go through the process, represent both fractions as of the same whole, and we just did that on the board. And that's called equivalence again. And then you know the answer is 3/10. All right, so here we are now. What is the value of 7/8 subtract 5/8 plus a half? So this is a combined, this has combined operations. Two operations here, subtraction and addition. And if you remember order of operations, when you have plus and addition and subtraction, either one can be done first. However, you can do the one that you see first in the mathematical sentence. So we're going to do subtraction first, but let's go through. So find the equivalent fraction, then operate. So a half is the only one that is not represented in eighths. But by now you should understand what a half looks like. If you have 8 parts in a whole, what is half of 8? Exactly. A half of 8 is 4. So if you want to represent a half in eighths, it's pretty much 4/8 because it's half of the amount of things that you have cut it up into. So we know that. Now we can operate. So 7/8 subtract 5/8 gives me 2/8. Now I'm going to add my 2/8 to my 4/8, which gives me 6/8. Now, do you see 6/8 in your options? No, I'm not seeing that. What do I need to do? Yes, 6/8 can be simplified by finding a common factor for both 6 and 8. And the common factor today is 2. 2 divided into 6 gives me 3. 2 divided into 8 gives me 4. So 6/8 is equivalent to 3/4 or 3/4. And your answer is there as option A. What is the value of 7/10 subtract 3/10 plus 1/5? So I'm giving you a little practice today. I'm working one with you thoroughly, and then I'll probably give you another one to look at. I hope you are following. I hope you are trying to do this on your own before I get to the answer. And if not, you can always go on One Spot Media or TVJ YouTube channel and go through the question at your own pace. Now let's look at this question. So 7/10 subtract 3/10. They're both from the same whole. It's easy to operate with them like that because all you're doing is operating with the numerator because the whole is pretty much the same. 1/5 now presents a little challenge, but nothing that you can't do. So 1/5 needs to be represented as tenths. So let's go through this. So we want to make it equal to tenths. All right, I did say pay attention to the denominators when you're making equivalent fractions. One, you can look for a relationship with all the denominators, which is pretty much looking for a common multiple. Now, 5 and 10, those are the denominators you have. 10 and 5, 5 is a factor of 10, so 10 is a multiple of 5. Pretty much 5 can go into 10. All right, so if we multiply 5 by 2, we get it to 10. We can't do it alone we can't make any changes just to the denominator. We must also change the numerator. So 2 times 1 gives us 2. So what we're saying, 1/5 is equivalent to 2/10. All right, now we can operate. So we have 7/10 subtract 3/10, which is 7 take away 3, 4, good, plus 2, 4 plus 2, 6, 6/10. There you go. Do you see 6/10? No, we're not seeing that. We simply simplify. We factor out 2 from both 6 and 10, giving us 3/5, and your option is C. Awesome. All right, so this one says, which of the following lists the fraction in order of size with the smallest first? All right. So what you want to do now, you have 7/10, 3/5, 1/1700, 3/4. Hey, these fractions are all of different denominator, all of different wholes. So we have to bring about some amount of uniformity. Let's represent them all as hundredths. All right? So 7/10 can be represented as 70 hundredth, 3/5 as 60 hundredth, 3/4 as 75 hundredth, and we already have the 17 hundredth. So now, which is the smallest? 17 hundredth is the smallest. So if you were to put them in ascending order from small to large, 17 hundredth, 60 hundredth, 70 hundredth, 75 hundredth. That's a lot of numbers. All right. So your option would have been 17 hundredth, 3/5, 7/10, 3/5. I said 3/4 and 5th twice. All right. So we're going to go to the last question of the day. All right, which is this. So what is the value of that? Which is similar to what you did, and I know you can do this very easily. So you're going to make it equivalent, 3/4, and then you pretty much operate. So a half can be represented as eighths, and that eighths would be 4/8. You add it to 7/8, which gives us 11/8. And then you subtract 6/8 because 3/4 is equivalent to 6/8, and your answer would be 5/8. School's not out. Continue to prepare for your exams.